Thank you, Jacqueline. I've been in a dark cave for months getting this film ready, and we just delivered it week before last, so it's a fresh print. This is our first public showing. I'm thrilled. And I'm obviously in debt to all the people that I worked with on this film. Most films I've developed from the beginning. This was not one of those. This is a project that was long gestated. It was a long process. And it was the dream child of two men, Robert De Niro and Art Linson. They worked for 8 years on it, so they tell me. I mean, sometimes Art and Bob disagree about the length of things, but regardless, there were other directors. They invited me on board, and when I read the script, I was just completely taken by the role of Jackie Burke. It's a unique character, and it's not an easy character, and my thought was immediately, if Bob De Niro is going to submerge into this character, I want to be there. I want to be part of this process, because it's going to be something to see, and I think you'll find out that it is. So I came on board, and we worked for a long time. We didn't have a green light, but we had the great luck of having a company, a new company, called Cinelou. And there are two principals of Cinelou, Mark Canton and Courtney Solomon. And they had the balls to raise the money without a distributor, which is, some people would call suicidal. But they stood by us, they helped us make the picture, which was fantastic. And I want to thank them. I also want to thank Sony Classics, who I was in my director's cut. I had 47 minutes, the first 47 minutes cut. Michael Barker and Tom Bernard came in, saw 47 minutes, said we're buying it on the spot. And that's also a good feeling. So I want to talk about the people that you collaborate with in the making of the film. I mentioned Art Linson. He and Jeff Ross wrote the original script that I read, and it drew me in here. They're here tonight. I'd like them both to stand up. Art Linson. And Jeff Ross. I also want to acknowledge two other writers whose names you'll see on the screen. Louis Friedman, who is responsible for a lot of the comedy routines. Louis is well, let's just call him either he's a comedy maven or a comedy professor or both, but he worked his ass off on this film, and you'll see his work on the screen. And an old friend of mine, Richard LeGravinaise, who is a great screenwriter, who came in and worked on the drama, and again, you'll see his work up there. When you have Robert De Niro as the lead character, you have a magnet for other actors, because everybody wants to work with De Niro. So I had that help. And tonight, we have some of those people here. Because they're so great, some of the other ones are working, or they would be here. But I want to introduce people in no particular order, although I'll work my way down to the star. Tonight, joining us is a German actress who I met and really loved. Her name is Veronica Ferris. Veronica, stand up. She's very beautiful in real life, but I don't want her for her beauty. I want her in a character, a very tough character she's playing, that runs this wedding chapel. And the wedding scene is probably the high point of the film, so you'll see it. I also had known an individual for a long time, but I'd never worked with him and wanted to. And there's a role of Robert De Niro's brother in this film, and I just had this image that they would really work great together. And so I asked him, and he agreed, which was a great pleasure for me. Danny DeVito. while I'm at the DeVito family, I also want to acknowledge a really talented young actress who's, you know, she's not just started her career, but she's going to be heard from, believe me, a lot. She happens, you know, the apple doesn't fall from the tree. And Lucy DeVito is in this film, and Lucy's here tonight. Now, there are names like legends. You say legend, but this really is a legend. There is a character in this film who is the doyen of comedy in the United States. You know, for want of a better word, she's the Lucille Ball of this film. And there's a wonderful sequence you'll see where Bob De Niro, as Jackie Burke, is giving her a roast. And I needed to find an indelible actress, an actress who could carry that presence. And luckily, we found her, Cloris Leachman. There are two actresses who are not here tonight. They're both working, but are so fantastic in this film. The first I want to mention is Evie Falco. You know her. She plays Bob De Niro's manager in this film, and she is fantastic. As well, I've never seen Evie Falco when she wasn't fantastic, but she's also very different in this film. And she, you know, she comes in. She and Bob just got into it. You just feel this relationship. It's quite a unique relationship of manager and client, but she's just wonderful. And the other actress is an old friend of mine who is indefatigable. She's brilliant, and I think you'll find her so in this film, Patti Lupone. I wish they could be here. Charles Grodin. Bob has a history. Bob has a history with Charles Grodin. They were in an incredibly wonderful movie together. And I called Charles up and said, I want you to do a cameo in this film. And, you know, Charles doesn't leave his compound in Connecticut very often. But he, you know, agreed, and it was a thrill to work with him. He, of course, is in the East tonight, but I want to acknowledge Charles Grodin. Now, you know, when you make a film, it's always a crisis here, there, and so forth. And we had gone down the road with an actress, and unfortunately her schedule didn't work out, and we were stuck. And I started immediately looking around, as quickly as possible. And I heard that an actress whose work I really love might be available and might consider it. I flew to Los Angeles from New York, where we made the film, and we sat down and had lunch, and I mean, I was totally charmed. She was, you know, I knew she was a wonderful actress and a wonderful comedian, but this is not a comedy role, this is a dramatic role. And I just fell in love with her. She was so real and great and courageous. And immediately I called back and I told Art and I told Bob, this is it. And they said, fine. And Courtney and Mark, they all agreed. And Leslie Mann came on the film. And I think when you see her tonight, you'll see a real revelation. Are you standing, Leslie? Yeah, all right, thank you. It was a joy, and you know, nobody acts alone. And this is Bob De Niro's movie. You know, it's a story of Jackie Burke's journey. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll see it in a moment. But Bob invited me on this picture, and you know, I looked at him and I said, you know, we're not going to have a very big schedule. It's going to be really tough. You know, are you committed? And you know, he kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? I've been trying to make this film for 8 years. You think I'm not committed? And every day he proved it. Every single day. We went to comedy clubs together. We'd go several times a week. We'd see 5, 6, 7 comedians a night. I was waiting for him. to choose a style that he liked. And, I started to get worried because we were getting down the line, but he finally said, that's it, right there. And I want to acknowledge the fact that we worked a lot at the Comedy Cellar in New York, which is, I think, is the best comedy club in America. Jessica Curson, who worked with Bob specifically, came on the picture and helped a great deal. Jim Norton, a great comic, also worked on the film. And all the people at the Comedy Cellar, and you'll see there's a lot of young comedians. The comedy world is it's a unique place. It's a very difficult, very hard profession. And Bob De Niro had to embody that, the neurosis of a comedian. He was a joy to work with. He was a beacon on the set. No crew member I was driving everybody relentlessly. Nobody can complain on the crew or the cast when the star is working harder than anybody else. So my salute is to Bob De Niro. Thank you for inviting me on. It was a joy. Are you going to stand? Yes. So this is our family. Hope you enjoy the film. Thank you.